members of the Islamic State group are about to be flown to America to face Trump.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me this morning. Hopefully we won't have any issues that we had yesterday, fingers crossed. So bear with me, I will keep an eye out. If you see any unsolicited comments and views from people, then do let me know. So today I'm going to carry on with the Grace's Garden stamp set that we used yesterday, and I'm going to step it up a little bit by building the seam, which is what I said I was going to do, and use the gates and things like that. So let's take you over to my craft desk and let's get crafting. Okay, so this is the card that I created yesterday on my live, and we're using in both cases the Grace's Garden stamp set. Features, as you can see, this garden imagery here, a beautiful gate post, some fence and 4 sentiments. This does have matching dies, but I haven't purchased the dies yet. I have to say I'm falling in love with this more every day, so it's probably on the cards. Anyway, so this is what we created yesterday. I'll just hop that out of the envelope so you can see it a bit better, like so, and then I stamped a little bit on the envelope to match. So what we're going to do today is step this up. I'm using the same scenery, but I'm adding in the gate post. I'm adding in the cat, the sky and the grass. So we are going to be doing a little bit of masking of the cat here, and a little bit of sponging across the top and brayering across where the grass is. And I'll explain why I use the 2 different methods as we go along. So, morning Carol, with an E, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, Marion. I can see comments today, so that's good. The other day when I was doing something I couldn't see any comments whatsoever, but I did see your ones of yesterday. So let us get started. So this is a standard A6 card, which is an A4 piece of card cut into half, and then that piece is then folded, and I'm using a Whisper White card to start with, and I've added a layer of my favourite Early Espresso behind, just to sort of set that scene. So if I pop that up here, I'm hoping you'll be able to see that while I'm creating. So we are going to start with our Whisper White. Now we do have some sunshine this morning, but I've learnt that when it's sunny you really do need to shut the blinds completely. Otherwise it goes too washed out for you. So it's only taken me, 6 months to realise that, hasn't it? Anyway, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my scene and then do my sponging and my colouring in. So I'm actually going to start with the gate posts, and you don't have to have these in the centre. You could easily have them to one side. And without really thinking about it, I've positioned this about 1/3 of the way up, which is the perfect positioning for spacing. Okay, so I'm going to stamp in Early Espresso. That won't come as any surprise to you. And you could use lots of different methods for colouring this in. So you could use the blends pens, which is what I have today. You could use watercolour using our inks. Because the flowers are small, you could even use our Stampin' Right markers. You wouldn't do those for a large area, but they work perfectly for a small area. I'm going to stamp this one in the centre, only because I quite like it there. And also it means you can put a sentiment up above where the gate is. You could also punch out a sentiment, of course. Okay, so there's my gate post, and then I'm just going to add some of the flowers going out from either side. So you've got a nice marker there to see where you need to stamp. So I'm just positioning it there. Now what you could do is, if you didn't want a gap here, you could mask off the side of the gatepost and stamp over it so you've got the flowers behind. Okay. So there's lots of things you can do to step this up and increase the detail. I'm just going to go either side with these tall flowers, which are rather like hollyhocks. Do we still have hollyhocks, everybody? I don't know. My mum and dad used to have hollyhocks in their garden up against the wall. And then I'm just going to add some of these flowers going off the edge. This one here. Obviously you could just do these all the way along if you wanted to. And let's put one in here. And if you had any gaps, you could add the smaller little flower in, which is this one here. Quite difficult to see, I appreciate that, but if you had any little gaps, you could pop that in on there. Okay, I'm going to add my little bird. It's very cute. I've got a thing about little birds, especially when they're small and you don't have to be accurate colouring them in. And I'm going to pop my cat there as well, watching the bird. So you do need to leave space for your cat to be on the grass. Okay, but there he is, or she is, watching the bird up on the top there. So I finished with my early espresso for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brayer across the bottom. I'm going to colour in the flowers and things first, just so that that is all nice and dry before I go any further. Hi Linny, hi Deborah. Hello Molly. Happy birthday for yesterday, Lynn. So, let me explain why I'm using a brayer for one and a sponge for the other. So I use a brayer where I've got really a solid area that I want to cover in, and typically it has quite a defined line. Now you can use the sponge, okay, it's not a problem at all, but I quite like having a solid area here and then using the sponge just pick out highlights here. It may be quite difficult to see, but I've got a few sort of different areas of shading here, and that just makes that work really nicely. So as I said, I'm going to do my flowers first, and exactly as I did yesterday, I am just literally scribbling in the colour. Sorry, I've got similar colours to yesterday. This is the pinks from Flirty Flamingo, beg your pardon. It's a bit deeper than Petal Pink. Some of these are leaves, some of these are flowers, but you can be very, what's the word? Fluent in your choice. I'm going to change the colours for these. Let's just pop these in. So this is a really easy set to colour in because you don't have to be very defined at all. You know, you can get away with it. You can just dot those in if you want. You could make these into buds and make them green, or keep them purple. Now I know this has been a really popular stamp set and I have waited to get it, but it just goes to show, and I've seen customers of mine and other demonstrators do a great job with these stamps, and I just decided I needed to add it to my basket. So I did. So very easy, and if you were watercolouring with a water brush, you can literally just scribble over those even quicker. I could use the wide tip of my pen if I wanted to. And then I'm just going to add some greenery in for the bottom. Let's make these flowers yellow. So this is Daffodil, no it's not. It's Light Mango Melody. The other one is Daffodil Delight. I'll get one of them right eventually. There we go. I've got a little bit of blue I'm going to add for the other flowers in here. As I say, literally my favourite sort of colouring. You can just scribble them in if you want, or you can obviously do it in more detailed fashion if you have plenty of time. And then finally I'm just going to add in the green, and I'm using the fine tip in all cases just so that I have a little bit more control. And then just going to scribble along the bottom here, just like I did yesterday. So if you haven't seen our one from yesterday, you can hop back and watch it. You can either watch it on my Facebook page or on my YouTube. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little line under here, like so, and just fill in some of the little leaves. So I hope everybody who's watching has a bit nicer weather today. It was okay yesterday, but it's certainly warmer and nicer today. There we go. Last thing to do is my fence, and for this one I am actually going to colour in my cat. So I left the cat white there because I'm going to mask it. So I've got crumb cake here for the gate post. You could leave it white, of course. Could be a white fence post. Just turn this round a little bit. So, as I say, I'm literally just scribbling this in, but if you were doing this at home and you had plenty of time, then feel free to do more shading. I am going to use a darker crumb cake for the panels behind. Just add that detail, like so. And you could also use the wider tip to cover a bigger area if you wish. So all of our blends pens and all of our marker pens have a wide and a fine tip. So just use really what suits you. Okay, let's add a little bit of dark crumb cake in here. So wherever there's some shading that the designers have given you, then that helps you know what bit should be potentially slightly darker. I'm going to add a little bit along here, which I'm going to blend in, and along here. So I say it's easy to colour in. You could leave that whole panel as a white fence if you wanted. Okay, just adding a little bit more detail down here, like so, and on this side. And then I'm just going to blend that in with my light crumb cake pen. Just gives it more depth if you compare this one to this one here. And then I'm just going to run the light crumb cake along that line just to soften it. So not highly technical in terms of technique. Voila. There we go. So it just gives it a little bit more interest than having it plain. And I think you can see the difference. Well, certainly I can from here. You may not be able to. Let's colour in our little bird. Let's have our bird in dark crumb cake. It's quite little, so it's difficult to do a lot of colouring with that. And this little pussycat is going to be in a light grey granite. Just so I've got a different one. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to add my grass across the bottom and my sky at the top. So I've got a piece of grid paper underneath. This is our small grid paper, which I love for smaller areas. And what I'm going to do is the brayering first. So I'm right-handed, so I turn this round so that I can brayer up and down on the right hand side. Just check that you can see that okay. And I'm going to cover up the cat, because otherwise if we went over with the green, we'd have a green cat. So the way that we do that is we stamp onto the sticky part of a post-it note or equivalent, cut it out, which I've done with this one, and just layer it over the top of the cat. So because this was white underneath and I covered it up, we've still got a white cat. Obviously this one has been coloured grey. So you want to be reasonably accurate about placing that down. Make sure it's covered. And I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz for my grass. So here is the Pear Pizzazz ink. I put light on it, so that's for my customers at class, because obviously they don't necessarily know the names of all our colours. So by calling it light, they know it's a light green. So to ink up your brayer, you've probably seen me do this before if you've been following me for a while. You want to make sure it goes right the way across the roller, and then you can ink it up on your scrap paper to see how that's looking. And then when you're ready, let's just get this over, you can introduce the ink onto your card. Now what I like about brayering is it's very quick and you can get quite an accurate line because you've got the line of the brayer itself. Now you can build up this as dark as you want to go. I could have used a darker colour, for example, and I could have introduced two colours, so I could have started off with a light one and then gone into a dark one. But if I want an extra bit of layer at the bottom, I can just go over that a little bit more, like so. So you've got a sort of light and dark area. Okay. If it's too deliberate a line here and you don't like that, then just go over that whole area, like so. So build it up as much as you want. Okay, that will do nicely. What I like about it is grass isn't one colour all the way over, so you get some natural shading of grass. What I am going to do is just a little bit across this area, not to cover it up, but just to fill in that little bit of white. Okay. Just so it's not quite as harsh. And then for the top bit, I'm going to use the sponging. So I have Balmy Blue, that's one of my favourite colours for sky. I'll do the same thing, I'm just going to turn it around because I'm right-handed. Going to, ink up the sponge, and I will turn this page over just so that you can see a bit better. There we go. So, introducing the sponge to the ink and then onto the paper and swirling it round so that you're priming your sponge, for want of a better description. Keep your sponge rounded, and I'm just doing that by pinching it. And then you can introduce the ink onto your card, like so. Now, often when you start, you think, oh, it hasn't done very much, but in fact, when you see the line here, you might not be able to see it in the light, but you can see where you've introduced it. So what I like about sponging an area is that you can go into a specific area more than you can with a brayer. So what I want is the look of a sort of blue patchy sky. You can build this up as much as you want, and again, just going over the details here. So I haven't got any gaping white, because obviously when you look at a scene, you know, in real life, you don't actually see anything white. So as much or as little sky and colour as you want, and if you do it sharp against the edge, you'll also get that outline of your card, which I quite like. There we go. Okay, let's peel away our little cat, because otherwise we would have had a green cat. So that's a post-it note. There we go. And I've got a tiny little gap there where I've obviously haven't cut that little bit in. So I'm just going to use the very edge of the brayer to fill in. You could use blend pen. Okay, I just want that little bit coloured in like so. So make sure when you cut out your little cat that you're cutting inside of the lines and you place it quite accurately. Okay, so there is my scene. This is my original one. This is my one that I've just done now. So you can see a little bit more definition, I think, in the sky, and more definition in the gatepost. So what I'm going to do now is layer that up and add a sentiment. So in terms of layering, I'm going to use the same combination, which is my card onto, which I need to cut down, onto Early Espresso, and then that onto Pear Pizzazz. So, which side am I going to trim off? The left, I think, because I quite like this positioning of this here, whereas this is all the same. So when I cut this piece down, it should have been 9.5 centimetres, which I know that will be, by 13.85. So that just gives me 1/2 centimetre all the way around between each layer as a border. Okay, so I'm going to pop that onto there. So you could use your glue of choice. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal. And remember, if you're using this, you want to tilt it over like so to break it off, and you'll get a nice crisp break. It's different to our snails that we had and different to our other heavy tape that we had. There we go. And this is going to layer onto here. That's our pear pizzazz. And this is a nice strong glue. You don't need to go all the way over it. You don't need to go all the way around the edge. I find 3 panels like that is absolutely perfect. Don't need to overdo it. There we go. Now all that is left is for me to add a sentiment to those 2 cards. And I was thinking Smile would be quite nice, or Friend from Daisy Lane, because I've used some of the other sets stamps yesterday. So maybe I'll do one of each. But I wanted the something slightly ornate and not too small so that it got lost in the whole frame. Let's just grab a better sized block. I'm pretty sure Molly, who's watching, has Grace's Garden. I'm pretty sure. Up the top or down on the right? Let's have a look at Smile. Smile's a little bit smaller. What do you think? Smile at the top or the right? Let me put my little cat back. So once you've done any masking, keep these in the stamp set, because you can use those again and again until it starts getting too worn. So what do people think? Top or right? What if that's too big? Let's see what you think. Any comments? I know it takes a while for you to catch up with me. Let's see if something else jumps out at me. Carol has a suggestion. Carol says to the right. Yeah, I think you're probably right there. So early espresso back out. There we go. Let's do Smile first. Let me bring out my sheet again. So I have decided, because I love these little paper sheets, I've decided in my next class in a box to include a little sheet of grid paper. There we go. Smile. There we go. And if for any reason I mess this up, then I'll cut it out and add it on. There we go. So there's Smile. I just like the font of that sentiment. And Friend. And then we're done. So yesterday I also showed you the cards for this month's class in a box. So what I'm going to do, because at the end of the video, is I'm going to cut the video and separate those out and then post that as a separate video, so you don't have to scan all the way through if you want to see my cards from my class in a box. There we go. Cards all done. Thanks to Carol with an E for her suggestion. So the two very similar ones. This one I've added just a little bit more detail, a little bit more shading on the sky, which I hope you can see. It's quite difficult, obviously, when you're not seeing it in person. So there we go. That's Gracie's Garden, a stepped up version, just using these stamps, not the dies that go with them. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back tomorrow, Thursday, at 7 p.m. and on Friday it will actually be 5 p.m, not 3 p.m, because I'm actually working somewhere else on Friday. But I will put a note up. Oh, Marion said bottom right, good. Yes, it's one of those that you could actually leave completely plain, isn't it, Carol? So that is perfect. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to have you be with me and support me. I'm glad we didn't have any intrusions today like we did yesterday, for which I apologise. And I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Make sure you look after yourselves and each other, won't you? Please take care, and I hope you can keep crafting. Thank you so much. Bye bye.